be with the teachers that actually this, in my opinion, created is that any gathering that we have in the community, the teacher that should be there to protect whatever that's going on. So I continue to watch over them as they went off to serve and they come out and continue to caution us to be with us through our leaders to ask these to move us their balance. And once again, I ask you to be with the first responders out there, either social workers, law enforcement, other people that are giving themselves in the community, working hard for us, make everybody safe here. I ask this in a good way, in a humble way, helping God to life.
All right, Jerry, floor is yours. Just remind, make sure your mic is on. We do have a listening audience.
Okay, good morning, Tribal Council. Thank you for your time. I have 2 action items from Tribal Realty. The first one is a Don Ryan land sale. She wants to sell 56.89 acres of fee interest for a total of $93,467.62 out of the Land Acquisition Section 7 funding source. This went through RPC August 31st and was approved by them.
All right, the floor is open for any questions or comments before you make that motion.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
So moved by Kakiza Haska. Is there a second? Second by Tokanawa. Calling for a question. Question by Buffalo Lake.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Tribal Council. My next action item is something we discussed in Roundtable back in May. It has to do with some fee properties in Siston that are currently unlivable or not being occupied. I drafted a rough draft of a fee policy. I sent it off to legal. When you look in your packet, you can see legal marked it up and made some recommended changes. But also wanted to remind you guys that legal is also recommending not to establish a tribal land fee policy, fee sale policy. They have some strong arguments, but in the discussion at the roundtable is these properties are basically sitting idle. They're out of compliance with local codes, and something has to be done. And I think that's why I think the consensus of council at the roundtable was to sell just these two properties, the Solomon and the Grable House. The Solomon property's been appraised. According to this policy, legal's recommending that we at least appraise the lots, the land, and that's what we did, so we have that number. If council agrees to move forward with this and approves this policy, I'll then advertise the Solomon property.
Floor is open. Go ahead, Louis, floor is yours.
I think, remember what I said to you yesterday morning on housing issue? They got well, it's not a new program, but they got some news on 184 program that we can buy property in Siston, the housing itself, to rehab or to tear down and rebuild. But I know housing is interested in those properties, so
Okay.
I just share that much with you guys.
All right, thanks, Louis. Anything else from council for the second action item? Go ahead, Dallas, floor is yours.
So does that mean they'll be willing to bid on these? Or an outside transaction?
Yeah, they're willing to stake them.
Similar to like I-29, yeah. All right. Thank you.
Go ahead, Curtis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this is something new. I think we maybe need to sit down and talk with the Director of Housing and meet with him and discuss this further. I'm just going to be honest. I'm siding with the legal on this, and I really don't think we should be selling fee land, tribal fee land. So I would be in favor of tabling this until we can talk to the director of the housing and come up with a plan and then move forward then. That would be my recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Curtis. Go ahead, Madam Secretary, floor is yours.
I guess I'm of the thought that if we're going to open it up for bids, then it should be open to everyone. And it should be, and I think Housing Authority can bid on it just like everybody else. But that's what I think. Otherwise, I think we're going to just set a precedent there. And tribal members would never get an option, have that opportunity to purchase. But that's just a thought I have with very little knowledge of this right now. So thank you.
Thanks, Madam Secretary. Go ahead, Curtis.
No, I don't disagree with that, Madam Secretary, but what I'm looking at is that, if the housing has money to rehab these houses, they can go to tribal members. If they have money to put into these housing or these houses to renovate, and that's what we need to find out, I think, from the director. And so if we could do that, rehab these houses, then we can put tribal members into them and go from there. That way, it would still be, it would be, number one, it would be still our land. And number two, we would have tribal members in there. But like I said, I'm not jumping the gun here. I just want to make sure we're doing our due diligence by talking to the director and to see if this is feasible and it's doable, and then we can move forward. So, but I'm not disagreeing with you either. I would like to see tribal members have an opportunity, everyone have an opportunity at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Curtis. Go ahead, Dan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I apologize for being a few minutes late. So on this, my understanding is that there are interested parties that want to buy this, but there is a trust application, and that's what we want to wait for. I think that there has been a lot of pressure to. I think there's been a lot of pressure to, because of the housing shortage, to push past some of this. But one of the things that I think as a foundational perspective has always been to regain as much land as a tribe as we can. And I think that I think that we owe it not only to ourselves but to our descendants, because we have a foundation of people who, with very limited resources, put as much of the tribe's resources as they possibly could into purchasing land that would belong to the tribe. And I think that not only moving forward to provide the largest land base that we can for our descendants and for those coming in the next generations, but to also honor those who pinched pennies to give us what we have today. I'm in favor of that. And of course, that interprets as policy on paper, but I think that perspective is really important to not only verbalize and communicate, but to put into policy that is how we're going to process forward. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Jerry. If you get a hold of Eric, as soon as possible, that you could get a roundtable with us.
Yeah, I'll go meet with Eric this morning and set that up.
All right, thanks, Jerry.
Thank you,
Anything else,
Council.
Jerry? All right, Council. Is there a motion to approve the the Realty Office report? So moved by Emily Swim.
Second.
Second by Kakiza Haska. Question by Ole Agency.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
right, Cliff, whenever you're ready.
Morning, Council. I did email out the report earlier, last week, I think. I did add one on the bottom there we can talk about, but we'll start right from the top. So, reservation-wide striping project. This is a KLJ task order. We'll draft a set of federally approved construction plans to use on all federal and tribal routes throughout the Lake Traverse Reservation for striping. This is a biannual or every 3 years that we do this, and I scramble every year to try and put numbers together and figure out where passing zones are, blah, blah, blah. So we'll just draft up a set of construction plans, make my life a lot easier. So motion number 1 to approve KLJ task order for the reservation-wide striping project with SWO DOT federally funded TTP budget and SWO tribal chairman signature authority on all documents.
Floor is open for any questions or comments from council. Thank you. So moved by Emily Swin to approve motion number 1.
Second.
Second by Curtis. Question by Susie.
Yes.
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 Number 2 is the Long Hollow Pathway Project, change order number 1 for the pedestrian safety pathway project for the SWO Tribal Council approval. So change order, or motion number 2 would be to approve change order number 1 for the Long Hollow Pedestrian Safety Pathway Project and federally funded TTP budget modification with Siston Wapton Oyate Tribal Chairman's signature authority on all documents.
Okay, council, floor is open for your clarification before you make your motion. Any questions or comments? Hear none, see none. The motion to approve. So moved by Kakiza Haska, second by Tokunawa. Question by Bode Hadakia.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, council. Back to you, Cliff.
The gravel crushing project we did earlier this year, the SWO DOT had contracted Eastman Inc. to crush up 40,000 ton of gravel to use on BIA federally funded projects on the Lake Traverse Reservation as owner furnished gravel. We agreed to crush an additional 10,000 for use on tribal roads. This invoice for the overage amount will need to be approved. So motion number 3 would be to approve the invoice amount for Eastman Inc. for the extra crushed gravel utilizing the SWO DOT gravel program budget and SWO DOT tribal chairman signature authority on all documents.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? Question going over to Tokunawa. Floor is yours.
Will we know the invoice amount, or is that something that comes after the fact?
The invoice amount was in the email. It's $24,927.60.
Oh, okay, I apologize, Cliff. I don't quite see it in the email, but thank you for mentioning that. So I'll make that motion.
So moved by Dallas, second by all agency. Question by Kakiza Haska on my good ear to the right.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, council.
Moving on to page 2, so the SWST transit program, in the process of acquiring the buses from the procured supplier Harlow Bus Sales, we had received a letter from Ford Motor Company for additional costs from the manufacturer. These additional costs will be paid from the FTA 5311 grant funding. So motion number 4, then we did an amendment to the agreement with Harlow Bus Sales. So motion number 4 would be to agree to approve agreement amendment number 1 for the extra manufacturing costs for the production of our new transit buses and SWO Tribal Chairman signature authority on all documents.
Floor is open for any questions or comments. Motion moved by Amity Swim. Second by all agency. Calling for a question? Question by Kakiza Haska.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
Number 5 then would be the TZ School Pathway Project. The SWO DOT did propose adding a culvert at the bottom side of the pathway to help with the flow of rainwater. So motion number 5, this culvert was not in the original construction plan, so motion number 5 would be to approve change order number 1 for the Teoshpazina School Pathway Safety Project and SWO DOT federally funded TTP budget modification with SWO Tribal Chairman signature authority on all documents.
Floor is open for questions or comments. So moved by Curtis, second by Dallas. Calling for question. Question by Susie.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and then number 6, this one was not in the email, but Barker Hill Phase 2 change order. We've been working on this for quite some time. We finally, a couple weeks ago, were able to lock down on some time frames. We then found out that there was extra charge concrete prices due to the economy today. Concrete prices have gone up quite a bit, so we do have a contract with the BG Amundsen to do the concrete work at Barker Hill Phase 2, and we just did a modification to that contract, extending time and adding some extra funding for the extra cost of the concrete, which I believe that was, let's see here, $46,483 for the whole, that's for the whole project, so $46,483, that's $1 per square yard for the whole project, so that was a proposal from the contractor. So motion number 6 would be to approve change order number 1 for Barker Hill Phase 2 concrete work and SWO federally funded TTP budget modification with SWO Tribal Chairman signature authority on all documents.
Okay, floor is open for any discussions, comments, questions. So moved by Curtis, second by Dallas. Question by all agency.
Yes.
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 Okay, anything else, Cliff?
That should do it. I think that covers my report.
Okay, going over to Emily Swin.
Just want to say, Cliff, that I just scrolled past that initial number, so it was in the email. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, if no questions or comments for Cliff, motion to approve the transportation report. So moved by Emily Swin. Second by Curtis. Question by Susie.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Thank you, Cliff.
Appreciate your time today. Appreciate your agenda, adding me on for these important motions. Thank you.
At this time, we have Dr. Johnson be bringing the Education Office report, the Head Start and Early Head Start report. She already gave the packets to all leadership here.
Good morning, Council. I have my action items up there. Just a couple FYIs there. The social studies, the comments are due on the 16th, which is Friday, coming fast. I will presenting oral comments on the Monday, the 19th in Aberdeen. And so I've already registered to do that. We do have the cannabis code revisions as presented by Phil. And I provided those copies to you because they need to have the guidance for the Head Start policy and the Head Start parent handbook.
Go ahead, yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I know that, Secretary, when we had a roundtable on this, we discussed that HR was going to be bringing a policy, and I was just wondering if, awesome, thank you. And thank you to HR. Thank you. Okay. Thank you to Mr. Budrow.
Okay, because not only does it have the far reaches of everything, I gave you the copies in your packet of the Head Start policies and then the parent handbook that it would go out, but also provided with these amendments. And I don't know if these were approved because a couple of them, and I don't know how to present them to you. Is it my? Do I do this, or just let me know? So, when we had that roundtable discussion, we were discussing these things, and Phil made note of them, and so he is supposed to be presenting those to council for the changes. And I'm not sure if he'll be with Megan in her report today or not, but he would be the one presenting them, I guess. Thank you. So I have a copy, and this is what was sent to me, but how would you like me to proceed, Council? Just table that until after that discussion then? Is that okay, Chairman, Secretary?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, so moving on, I just want to remind everybody that September 22nd, and here is the meeting with the NSU president and vice president and a few other staff people that will come and happen. On the 22nd, it is planned that we do, that's our Equinox Day, so we're going to serve the people soup and fry bread, probably cake. something like that. And so we'll partake with that. And I just did the invite to the council suite. So I'll set up a table in there with food, and so we can just do a quick meet and greet that day. That's on the 22nd. And then I'm on to the Head Start. There really are expenditures and approvals that they need to have there. And one is their teaching strategies. Size this up, so, whoops. And right now it is in legal, and I have about 7 or 8 items in legal, and so they've been working hard on my stuff, and it hasn't come out of legal, but we need to go ahead and get this approved pending legal, if that could happen.
Any questions or comments from leadership? Go ahead, Curtis.
I'll make a motion on number 1.
Motion moved by Kakiza Haska for number 1 action item. Calling for a second. Second by Dion. Question by Mr. Vice Chairman.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Council.
And then I also have a Lakeshore request. It's for $15,495, and these are all through procurement and 34 cents. If that could also get it approved.
Any questions or comments from Council for clarification?
Motion for number 2.
So moved by Curtis, but Dallas has his hand raised. He's going to ask you where the money is going to come from. Go ahead, Dallas.
No, but I was just double checking, making sure this was done prior to the executive memo of September 1st.
Thank you, Secretary.
Okay, so Head Start's fiscal year starts on December 1st. So I put in a request to the Vice Chairman that Head Start be allowed to purchase up until October 31st. That would be along the same lines as the rest of the programs, where they have 1 month to spend down before their new fiscal year. So I didn't get a response yet. But okay.
So how would you like to proceed, Mr. Vice Chair? All right, thank you.
Second?
Second by Haipa. Calling for a question? No question, I'm call for vote. No question by Madam Secretary. Getting on the books, earning that jacket, at a year jacket.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, thank you, Council. I did give the Vice Chair the string of emails and the request from the Secretary, so he has that in his possession, so thank you. The same thing with our ACE expenditure. My only comment is I'm not happy on the shipping costs on that.
Floor is open for any questions or comments for action item number 3. So moved by Curtis. Second by Oladensi.
Question?
Question by Haipa.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the rest of the the reports are attached there.
Sorry about that, Dr. Johnson. Dion has a quick question.
Well, and actually, this isn't for Dr. Johnson. This is on I guess it would be for the vice chairman. These are really, I mean, these are really simple items that are being ordered, and that is a huge shipping cost. Is there a way that we can do our purchasing and procuring items like these in a better, more cost-effective way? Because that's a lot of money for items that could be purchased probably at a fraction of that cost. And I, you know, and I see that it's signed off on, but I know that back a year and maybe 15 months ago, we had passed a motion to have the vice chair at that time, you know, start working on that procurement policy. And I mean, I know the task wasn't completed and it was a different person in that seat, but maybe this would be an opportunity to start looking at some of those items again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Dan. Before I call upon Mr. Vice Chair for that, go with Dr. Johnson. Did you want to respond to that?
Well, we've worked on several of these like this where it just seems like it's just way too much for costs and stuff, and it just feels like price gouging to me. And one of them, our last one, we did bids for like this, and it came back and they got the bid on it, and it was for cell phone codes. And it was our TVR works with cell phones and our cards anyway. And all it is an email exchange. And they tacked on this whole big fee on that. And so Jenny questioned it, and it was only Jenny that really stuck up for us, because I kept asking, I said, why are they, all it is via email. Why are we being charged all these shipping costs for something that comes in the email? And so when I said that and questioned it, it went back to Jenny, and Jenny was the one that approached the store and got all of those forgiven. And there was an apology made. But, you know, here it is again, just an extreme amount of shipping. And in past, there was some shipping charges being charged to our programs, our tribal programs, that the shipping was free. And so I would appreciate any looking into this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
And
thank you, Dr.
it's tough when procurement should be saving our tribe money and that whole process, and it costs us like